What is yoga philosophy? In essence, it is basically a philosophy of energy, of internal energy, to understand the flow of energy within us and to make it harmonious. It is like a flower opening up its petals to the sun. That is the state of yoga, a state of openness, a state where the energy moves with a great clarity, a great power. And the physical, spiritual and intellectual energies are aligned together. And this requires a state of being that is very, very non-contradicted within itself. A state where the mind is not caught in the paradox of contradictions. A state of being where the energy is allowed to flow through us in a manner which has great momentum, great rhythm. And the yogic state is a very happy state. Now, why is this important to understand? Because it is a very fundamental part of achievement of any kind in our relationships, in our work, in our careers. If we are to move forward with rhythm, with momentum, with dynamism, with success, we need to understand this internal state of our own energy. Now, what does yoga say? How do we bring our energy into this harmonious state and powerful state within us? The first thing to understand is the mind. The mind creates so many contradictions, makes us so miserable that sometimes, you see, the mind is something which the body also follows the mind. Everything we do is dictated by the mind, but if the mind is in a state which is constantly in a state of contradiction, we are not able to flow and grow with a trust within us. There's always an element of doubt within us. And yoga tells us that life is so vast, life is so beautiful, that we are to drop this ego that surrounds our mind, that imbues our mind with contradiction. So essentially, it's about becoming by and by free of these unnecessary problems that the ego creates. The other thing to understand is that we are not to be guided by what's happening in the world. We are to be guided by our own intelligence, our own being within us. Most of us are just caught in the flow of the way society is going. If we are a business person, we're just caught in the flow of the market. You see, very few original things come out because people are not really using their own intelligence, their own luminous consciousness. They're not really listening to their own energy, their light within. Yoga says the best way to convert your energy into something dynamic is to pour your energy into positive emotions. We are busy pouring our energies into negative emotions. The best way to purify our state of being and to create a blissful flow of energy is to pour our energy into positive states of being, positive emotions, love, affection, care. All these things by and by cleanse the system, cleanse our energy, takes away the unintelligence, takes away the contradictions within us, and leave us as a pure passage for the universal energy and opulence which wants to flow through us. If we understand these few basic concepts of yoga, we will see life in its many dimensions becomes much richer. Our existence becomes much happier, and we find that we are able to achieve our larger goals with much more dynamism. It creates a courage within. It destroys the negative, the unnecessary, because, the ego, contradiction, all these things are constantly tearing away at our energy, constantly exhausting us. So yoga says that we are to surrender to the inner light within, and the best way to do this is to pour our energy into positive emotions, into positive thoughts, and then the inner becomes cleansed. You see, our internal state of being is very subtle, and yoga is a science of the subtle. Our feelings of inner expansion lead to outer expansion in whatever we do. On the other hand, if from within we feel very restricted, contracted, then our outer work does not really reach that vastness, that depth, or that massive success that we can otherwise. The mind constantly becomes small, scared, frightened when we pour our energies into negative emotions. So instead of that, we have to stop resisting. We have to relax within our beings and understand that we can be immediately ready, and abundance, success is close at hand. It just requires a slight adjustment in our attitude.